How to learn coding in the best way. Coding is a list of step-by-step instructions that get computers to do what you want them to do. Coding makes it possible for us to create computer software, games, apps, and websites. Coding could be one of the most valuable skills in the future. Python is easy to learn and widely used, and is one of the most popular programming languages. Although it is a general-purpose language, it is used in various areas of application such as machine learning, artificial intelligence, web development, Internet of Things, and more. If you know Python, you can learn C, Java, and other programming languages much easier. Before we start, you need to know that coding is basically a combination of language and math. Just like any language, you need to memorize the keywords, or the reserved words, which have special meanings. Only when you understand how to use those keywords, and use the correct grammar, or called syntax, you can write the code correctly. Here is a list of all the keywords in Python. Just like learning math, you need to understand algebra, including math operations, variables, functions, etc. You also need some foundation of logical thinking and reasoning, which can be improved by learning math. In addition, learning coding is a very practical skill. You need to practice how to write code. You can find a free online Python compiler in the description below, where you can execute your code and see the result. ChatGPT could be your best assistant to learn coding. You can ask questions about any concepts in programming and get a good explanation. In fact, the best part is that ChatGPT can even write the real code based on any requests. This will help to expand your thoughts significantly. The more you read coding examples, you have better understanding about how to write any code. Now, let's start. The first important concept for coding is variables. Unlike math, where any variable only has a fixed numeric value, the value of any variables in coding can be changed anytime. There are also many other data types in addition to numeric value in coding. There are 6 most commonly used data types in Python. Int is for any integers, float is for any decimals, string is for any text, boolean only has 2 values, true or false. List is an order sequence of values. Range returns a sequence of numbers starting from 0 and increments to 1 until it reaches a specified number. Here are some examples of how to use them. To use any variable in Python, you need to have a name for the variable and assign a value to it. Most people use lowercase and underscores convention to name a variable. Here are some examples. To assign a value to a variable, you use the equal sign. This is quite different from math. Here is how to use it. For string and list, it's always starting from position 0 instead of 1. You may consider string as a list of characters. The second important concept is functions. Unlike math, where a function is a kind of relationship where there is only one y value for each x value, a function for coding is a block of code to take in data, process it, and return a result. A function is very useful to increase reusability of coding. For example, to calculate the sign value of a series of numbers, do you need to write the same code for each calculation? Of course not. You only need to write one function to calculate the sign value. Each time you need to calculate, you just call the function, pass the variable, and return the result. A library is a collection of pre-written functions that can be imported into your project. You don't need to write the code by yourself, just reuse those functions to get the results you need. Python has developed very good libraries, including built-in functions and built-in modules, to help you facilitate any tasks. A module is a set of code or functions. A library is a collection of related modules. You can use those built-in functions in code directly, but you need to import built-in modules to use them. There are also many other libraries developed by professionals to improve the functionality of Python. Here are some commonly used functions and libraries and how to use them. One of the most popular use of Python is for its machine learning capabilities. TensorFlow, Keras, NumPy, and Pandas are popular libraries used for machine learning and artificial intelligence. You may find an introductory course for machine learning in Coursera. You can find the link in the description below, where you can audit the course for free. In addition to those pre-built functions, you can also design your own functions. There are only 3 simple steps to create a function. Step 1. Define a function. You use def to define a function. You can also pass some parameters to the function. Step 2. Add some codes to the function. The body of the function should be indented. You can use the tab key on the keyboard or use the spacebar to add 4 spaces to create indented code. Step 3. Return the value of the function. You can add or skip return value depending on the requirements. Once you create the function, you can call the function anytime to execute the code. Here are some examples of simple functions. The third important concept is conditional statements. Conditional statements always start with the keyword if, followed by the Boolean expression and a colon. If the condition is true, it will run the following indented code. You can also add an else statement, which will run when the condition is false. elif is used to combine an else statement with another conditional statement to check for additional information. Here is a sample code for easier understanding. This code is to rate the exam scores. If the score is greater than or equal to 90, it's a high score. If the score is greater than or equal to 60 and less than 90, it's a pass. Otherwise, it's a failure. To better understand how to use conditional statements, you also need to understand common math operators, comparison operators, and compound conditional statements. Similar to math, Python has addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division operations. In addition to that, Python also supports modulus, floor division, and exponent operations. Similar to math, Python has equations and inequalities, although the symbols are not quite the same. Python also has logical operators. The commonly used 3 logical operators are AND, OR, NOT. A conditional statement, that contains 2 or more Boolean expressions connected with logical operators, is called a compound conditional statement. A compound conditional statement using AND. The statement is true when both expressions are true. Otherwise, it's false. A compound conditional statement using OR. The statement is true when either expression is true. Otherwise, it's false. A compound conditional statement using NOT. The statement is true when the expression is false. Otherwise, it's false. The fourth important concept is loops. Loops are very important. If you want to go through all the items in a list, you have to use loops. If you want to read a file, you have to use loops. When you play any computer or mobile games, the program is always waiting for your input. This is also a loop. There are 2 types of loops. For loop is to repeat code a specified number of times, while loop is to repeat as long as the conditional statements within them are true. Loops can also be nested. When one loop is put inside another loop, they help create more complex repeating code. Let's talk about the for loops first. It's always starting with the keyword for, followed by the counter variable, repeating times, and a colon. It will run the indented code repeated times according to the counter variable. Here is a sample code for easier understanding. This code is to generate the nth number for a Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci sequence is a sequence in which each number is the sum of the 2 preceding ones. The first number is 0, and the second number is 1. So the third number is 0 plus 1 equals 1. Now, let's talk about the while loops. You can run the while loops forever until the conditional statement becomes false. When you use any apps in your phone, the apps just run with a while loop and wait for your input until you close the apps. It's always starting with the keyword while, followed by a Boolean expression and then a colon. It will run the indented code repeatedly until the Boolean expression becomes false. Here is a sample code for easier understanding. This code is a guessing game. It will generate a random integer between 1 and 100. You need to guess the number to win. Each time, the code will show either your guess is bigger or smaller than the number. This will continue until you guess the correct number. Now, you understand all the important concepts about coding in Python. With more practice, you can solve any problems in coding with ease.